You're listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast with Prep Baseball Wisconsin, breaking down the top high school prospects and featuring all things college baseball recruiting in a changing world. Hosted by Vinnie Rottino, Josh Fields, and Andy Sroka, this is Badger State Ball.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Badger State Ball Podcast with myself, Andy Sroka, Josh Fields, Vinnie Rottino here. We had to skip out on last week's podcast. Unfortunately, we missed it. We missed you. Just had a ton of stuff coming off the end of our showcase season. Then we were previewing the WIAA season. The opening day was last week, Tuesday. So there was just a ton going on. We felt like we couldn't put together like a really good episode for you. But we're coming back this week with a jam-packed one as a result. So we'll be talking a little bit about our preseason Power 25 in the state of Wisconsin, how they're faring a week in. Not everybody has played just yet, but a good amount of the teams have. I think there's only a handful that haven't had their season opener at this point here at the time of this recording on Tuesday morning. All right, and before we jump into some of our WIAA coverage, preview talk, Vinnie, what's been going on? Brewers are back in the swing of things. How's it look?
So as most of the listeners know, I'm not only the prep baseball scouting director for the state of Wisconsin, I'm also on the Brewers broadcast team. So I've been tasked with a bunch of games this year. So I've already gotten a handful of games in the pre and post game show studio. I'm doing that as well these next 6 games, and then I'm jumping in the booth actually at home. So I'm taking over a little bit for Rock. No one can replace Bill Schroeder, Rock legend, mentor of mine, good friend of mine. But I'm jumping back into the booth for those home games coming up here in the next homestand. But yeah, so the Brewers look good. I am gonna do my best here to kind of get up to speed on things for the WIAA. Kind of gonna be playing catch up most of the year with that. But Josh Fields, Andy Sroka, you guys just do a tremendous job of just the coverage, going out to the games. I'm really looking forward to these podcasts just in terms of getting educated on what's going on with the state and what's going on in the WIAA for these games, these high school games. I've already been kind of up to speed a little bit, and it's already really good talent, really good coverage so far, and excited to get into it right here.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun to have you on, whether or not, you can get out to any games at all this spring. Either way, I think it'll be fun to have Vinnie on, just the podcast, kind of keep him up to date. It'll help us too, I think, Feels, just making sure that we're like keeping tabs on what we're seeing and doing, and then spitting it back out to Vinnie, so we can kind of break it down all as a group. I think that'll actually be kind of productive. So no worries there, Vinnie. We can hold down the fort this spring.
Awesome.
All right, cool. Well, with that, Fields, let's kind of dig into the season preview, the Power 25, that we didn't really get to talk about too much. We teased here and there in a couple episodes, but we'll kind of break it down in earnest here. We're going to go through this fairly quickly and then kind of take a little bit more time on the teams towards the top, and then what Fields and I saw this past week, opening week, around the state. So we'll just go through the top 25, starting with the first 5 or 6 teams here, just in order. So at number 25, La Crosse Aquinas, D3 champions last year. They're in Division II now, so it'll be a different kind of challenge, but they're used to playing some of the higher division programs. Given their conference, they're kind of accustomed to that, so that shouldn't be too big of a jump for them. They're at 25. Wisconsin Lutheran, D2, they're at 24. Whitnall, D2, they're at 23. Edgewood, D2 at 22. 21, Brookfield Central, and 20, Waukesha West. Feels one of those teams that jump out to you right away?
I mean, a couple actually, but I guess Whitnall knocking off our number 1 team on Saturday is notable. Whitnall was a team that we had talked about prior in teasing them, and they're a surprise team, and looks like wow, this team can actually play.
Yeah, we were excited about their pitching depth, I thought, and then they had some. And this was I was at that game at Muskego. And the biggest takeaway from a competitive Power 25 standpoint, I guess, would be that it was a really good lineup. Just 1 through 9, it was a tough at bats. They faced this really good arm, obviously Ben Kulich, Muskego, and he was up to 92. It's not like he was struggling too much. Maybe he didn't have his sharpest breaking ball, but whatever. This was a good arm that they were not really fazed by. Ton of good at bats there. So that lineup backing up a pretty good rotation is interesting. And then what do you have on Nate Caston? Brian Stratkovic, because he pitched their opener. They won. He pitched well. But then to have him and then Jake Reckless, who pitched against Muskego and looked sharp, a lefty, kind of a strike-throwing pitchability guy. Those two guys in front of some of the more high-powered arms they have, I mean, like, that's a really good recipe for success there.
Yeah, I mean, both of those guys that you mentioned before, Caston and Recklets, have been performers for Muskego for multiple years. I believe Recklets and Caston were both all-conference recipient players last year. So these guys have been accustomed to playing on the varsity stage for multiple years, and picking up where they left off is just no surprise, especially on the mound for those two especially.
Yeah, nice. And then you saw Brookfield Central recently or just last week, and we can kind of get into them more like whatever scout perspective like a little bit later, but just from a team standpoint, like what was your takeaways there from seeing them last week?
Oh, I saw Brookfield East, but Central, I mean, they have they have arms. The lineup is really deep, and after the first two games of the year, I mean, they scored 25 runs on top of the pitching staff that they bring back. That could be a recipe for they could see themselves rising pretty quickly here.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to follow just because given they have a ton of really, really good arms. That was kind of the headline here when we were previewing them and their season. But if they're able to produce runs at this rate, I could definitely see them challenging for the greater metro, obviously, and beyond. So we'll see about that. Wisconsin Lutheran got their season opened up yesterday against Greenfield. They kind of had a solid, I can't remember the score off the top of my head. It was like 9-1, something like that win, something like that. But they look sharp, like the sophomores again. That's kind of the story here. They have this really strong sophomore class. Like a lot of the holes are filled out in the rest of the roster by some more experienced guys. But the sophomores did get a ton of experience as freshmen last year. They played a lot, and they got going early right away. Cooper Sievert was really good yesterday. Carter Fry. Eli Dreyer pitched well, 6 strikeouts in 2 innings of work, so that was good to see. Aquinas is 1-0 or 2-0. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're looking sharp. They had a come-from-behind win last week, and then some of these other teams are getting their seasons going this week, like Waukesha West. So we'll see what we got out of them shortly. All right, this next group of teams here at number 19, Eau Claire Memorial, 18, Holman, 17, Hortonville, 16, Kenosha St. Joe's, 15, Slinger, 14, Madison Memorial, 13, Indian Trail, and 12, Menominee Falls. So we'll stop it there for now. But Memorial, I think when we're going through the process of kind of like picking and choosing which teams to include in the Power 25 or some candidates, we kind of have a process where we look through the bigger conferences, the traditionally stronger conferences. Big Rivers is one, obviously, but there's some really good baseball out there in the Eau Claire area. And Memorial just kind of kept impressing us. Like we knew, obviously, of Cooper Jesperson, who we've talked a lot about, but he didn't even pitch for them last year, and they just seemed a lot deeper than maybe we had been giving them credit for going into our initial rankings. But Fields, is that kind of what you saw there when we were producing that season preview for Memorial?
Yeah, exactly. They bring back a ton of just players from last year, and on top of it, like you said, Cooper Jesperson didn't even pitch, and he has the potential of just maybe being the best arm in the state. So adding that to the mix and already a pretty solid team is, puts themselves in good company here. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think they've gotten their season started just yet, so we're eager to see how they get it going. 18 at Holman, they got 2 really, really good starters leading the way there, Paul Gorel and Aaron Plozet. Plozet especially can really become one of the top lefties in the state. I mean, he already is in that category, but there's a lot of guys kind of vying for that, like number 1 or the number 2 right behind Ryan Brennick at Oconomowoc. But Plozet is someone I think we need to prioritize seeing Fields this spring, so we'll try to catch a good matchup of Holman's. Hortonville, they are 1-1. They did lose last week to Pulaski, but Pulaski in their own right looks really strong. They were kind of one of the candidates to make the Power 25 actually in one of our first cuts, I guess you could say. But they look really good right now. Hortonville, really no harm, no foul just yet. Like Braylon Brantler had a good start for them. Lot to like there still. St. Joe's, you want to talk about them a little bit, Field? So we both saw them play in a really nice matchup at night against Sam Hurth. You got there first while I wrapped up the Badger Tremper game that we were at. But St. Joe's, I thought there were a lot of interesting insight that we can pull from that one.
Yeah, I mean, one, they were facing a great arm, especially just being a lower division team, Division 3 versus Division 1, I believe. But Sam Herthy is just one of the best arms in the state, especially uncommitted arms when we're talking about uncommitted seniors. So he was facing off against this St. Joe's lineup, and they just did not look – they looked really comfortable in all of their at-bats. And what we found out was that lineup is actually really deep, like 6-7 batters deep, just all taking competitive at-bats, headlined with like guys like Dominic Santarelli and Peter Visconti at the top, and then – just more guys to supplement them deeper, Patrick Davidson and Zach Rizzo for a couple. But yeah, that's just a really strong and potent offense that I could see them putting up some ridiculous stat lines over the year.
Yeah, that was a really good challenge for them. Ike is actually D2, but I mean, they were still like they have like a pretty deep squad, and we were like they were another one of the teams that we were considering for the back end of this Power 25, and I think the way that they approached Herthy was a pretty big deal. Actually, they just seemed completely capable of facing and beating, like competing next to one of the top end arms in the state, even as like a smaller D3 school. So we like them a lot, but that was a really insightful game that we got out of there in Kenosha. Slinger, ton of arms. Yeah, go ahead, Vinnie.
I was just gonna say, and that's taking nothing away from Sam Herthy's look, just from on the video and that tweet that you guys put out. Just it's you guys are speaking to how good this lineup is for St. Joe's. I mean, it's a very advanced lineup. So guys capable of handling velocity, and handling good secondary offerings that Herthy, perhaps Herthy is one of these guys that just really continues to pop as we saw him pop this winter, and then he's just going to continue to do so as he gets more innings this spring and then into the summer as well.
Yeah, for sure. It was a pretty cold night, too, obviously.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he was still upper 80s, 88, 89 early. He looked kind of like the same guy in a very good way. It was just interesting to see St. Joe's up to the challenge there. So we'll elaborate on that, too, once we kind of break down the games we saw last week as well. But that was kind of the quick gist on St. Joe's. Slinger story here, ton of arms. They were 500 last year, brought nearly everybody back. They look really strong and sharp out of the gates already this spring. Madison Memorial, a couple wins already to start this season. Indian Trail has not started their season yet, but we like them a lot. We like them to win the Southeast. And then there's Menominee Falls, who dropped a couple of games to Sussex Hamilton, which has probably been the biggest surprise of the season. Hamilton looks really good. They're 3-0 right now. Falls is 1-2, and they have a matchup with Brookfield East right away. So kind of like no time to rest. Like East looks kind of interesting as well in their own right. But Fields, anything to touch on with the group of teams here that we're talking about?
Yeah, just taking a look over at Madison Memorial here, that top of the lineup looks like it. I mean, we've been waiting. We've known about Ezra and Caleb Ligon for a while, and some of the swings we've seen on Twitter from Caleb Ligon, it looks like he's just taking a step, like with the bat at the plate. I don't know if you guys saw that home run, but that looked potentially special.
Yeah, he crushed the ball just in some Twitter video that we saw. But he had a really good week, like statistically too, just opening week, the first couple games. And but that home run swing, yeah, it looked a little different because his bat path, I guess, it didn't feel like it was geared for that like home run type power. He's a really strong, athletic kid. Like eventually, yeah, I mean, like it could happen or whatever. But I don't know if I'm phrasing that quite right. Feels, but like it kind of felt like he was more of a like gap to gap line drive guy or something. But just seeing him unlock that home run swing, because it was different. He ran into it and lofted it, and it was really pretty to see.
Yeah, it looked gone off the bat immediately.
So that's a good time, big time look out of Ligon. All right, cool. And then we'll spend a little bit more time talking about these next 10 or 11 teams here. So 11, Pewaukee. I mean, I think we get teased up a lot for being high in Pewaukee. I remember some of the comments on like last year's stuff, but they were pretty good last year, and I think they're pretty good again this year. We like them a lot, but it feels like there's also like this perfect situation brewing with Pewaukee in that there's a lot of seniors here. Everybody on this roster, especially these seniors, obviously have played like 3 or 4 or going into 4 years with this group, and they're kind of accustomed to winning. It's a competitive group, and like they're off and running this spring already too, kind of showing why we ranked them this high. You know, they haven't been challenged just yet. I think they play Whitefish Bay today, so that'll be kind of an interesting first big game for them. But they're 3-0, good start. Grayson Zach started out well. I think he pitched well in his opener, and I think he's been pretty hot at the plate for him too. But Drew Dauberstein is off to a crazy start offensively. Like, he's in contention for like our first player of the week. We got to go through that soon. But he had a huge week offensively, and Owen Dauberstein pitched really, really well in his first start too. So there's some reasons to like them. But feels anything to add there?
Yeah, it's really just a senior heavy group, and on top of it, these guys are all multi-sport athletes that get it done in multiple sports. Pewaukee's known at winning, so just more accustomed to more of the same this year.
Yep, for sure. De Pere, kind of a lot to prove, weirdly. And I say that like with all due respect because it's just such a brand new team, like almost 1 through 9. But with that, like the coach Van Rens and them, like they've had nothing but good things to say about this group in our preseason questionnaire that they sent along. Like, said that they're hungry to prove themselves now that it's finally their time to start. Take the reins here. And become defending, champions. Like, I think is ultimately their goal. But it's a brand new team. Like, feels like, what do you got on De Pere?
Yeah, it's a brand new team, but some of the pieces that they bring back some of the most experience. Like, I remember seeing that Mason Sequin had the most plate appearances for them last year, and he's returning at the top of the lineup as well. Lucas Koski is going to be another guy, corner infielder, bat, middle of the order type guy, and also get on the mound and throw it for them too. So it's a young team, but there's a lot of like upperclassmen that are eager to get on the field and really impact this roster this spring.
Yep. Excited to see their season start. They've not played just yet, I don't think. Germantown, they have, and Field, you were in attendance for this one. This is where you saw Brookfield East play. They split a doubleheader at the Rock. It was kind of a cold night. I don't know how much that factored into it, but chilly night. Germantown splits with Brookfield East, who we kind of like Brookfield East too. That this conference, the Greater Metro, is pretty talented. I think these teams are going to kind of beat up on each other, but we like Germantown the most out of this group going into the spring. But did you have any like major takeaways on Germantown just coming out of that? Like, with that suffering a loss. Technically, it was a close loss. I think it was pretty late. You can elaborate on that, but just as a group, what did you think about Germantown leaving the Rock?
Yeah, the loss was a walk off. It was a really good piece of hitting by one of the latter half of the order hitters from Brookfield East's lineup, but it was a really good look. And Carter Gordon had 5 no-hit innings. Up to 91 in the cold 5 times in the first, but we'll elaborate on that a little later. But, there's more depth behind just Carter Gordon on the mound. There's a ton of arms behind him, and like Logan Zavarol, Tyson Baker, for example, who pitched a combined no-hitter in Game 2. But, yeah, there's just a really balanced, really competitive lineup and on the mound.
Yeah, kind of nothing to fear there. I think some of these early season, and they're still really young too, I think is important. Even though they got that experience from last year, there might be a few growing pains or whatever here and there as they really come into their own. But still really excited about Germantown and their prospects in the Greater Metro and beyond, especially with the head coach Jay Woj. They're leading the way. I think that's huge to have with a group like that too. So we'll keep an eye on Germantown still moving forward. Hartford Union have not yet played, but this is one of the best defensive teams, I think, in the state, like kind of 1 through 9. Like there's some really, up the middle especially, they're really strong. Carter Cutts looked really sharp at third base in the preseason at the Super 60. Caden Romans, Aiden Cole, who am I forgetting? There's just a ton of players here to like defensively, and I think that's going to take them a long way, actually. And Cutts, offense, he's capable of being like a Wisconsin Player of the Year contender, just on both sides of the ball, especially if he hits the way we think he can and has proven on several occasions too. But even elevating that as a senior in the WIAA, he can put up some really gaudy numbers, I think.
Yeah, especially when it's a two-way impact from him, from a guy that can, legitimately win Player of the Year on top of obviously one of the better defensive teams in the state. So
yep.
The floor is already pretty high for this Hartford Union squad.
Yeah, we like this group a lot. 7 Arrowhead, debatably they have the top rotation in the state, but there are a lot of contenders. I don't think that's like any like unanimous or consensus pick or something like. But regardless, Peter Cusseau, Jack Roventini, Tanner Bowman, just to name a few off the top. Like that's a really, really strong group. A little light offensively, just as compared to years past. We're used to this team having like 1 through 9 level of the competitive at bats, which they just might be lacking a little bit in that department, or that'll take a little bit of time to figure out who those guys are this spring. But they have not yet played this year, but that rotation is just going to make them, I think, really competitive yet again in one of the best conferences in the state, if not the best conference in the state, with a couple teams here ranked inside the top 7.
Yeah, and on top of another contributor like Cameron Carter, who can swing the bat, middle of the order bat for them, and on top of being one of the arms in this rotation as well, so it just adds to it.
Yeah, Cam is a great call because the way he looked offensively, I mean, we know he can pitch, and he's going to pitch like he has a chance to be maybe their best or second best arm behind Cusseau. Like he gets a ton of results and swings and misses, but the way he looked at the plate at our South Milwaukee ID event at the start of March was pretty interesting. Like whether or not he's a two-way or outfielder or whatever at the next level, I think regardless, Arrowhead is going to have a true like go-to bat in the middle of their lineup with Carter, the way he was swinging it at hitters. So that was awesome to see. Next up, Fields, your boys, Sun Prairie East. You saw them last week just as a team here. We won't get into Tamboli. I know Tamboli started and pitched awesome, looked really, really sharp. But just as a group here, I think, if anything, we might be a little low on them at 6.
Yeah, I echo that. Up the middle, they're really good. Manny Caro, one of the better defenders in the state, especially just handling a pitching staff and really just receiving pitches, stealing pitches, whatever he's asked to do. Up the middle defensively, it's Max Glusick, it's Cam Glusick, and Svan Vogler, and these guys are just gamers. They will play at 100%, and it really shows on the field. The team operates on offense like they're a well-oiled machine. They scored 13 runs, I believe, in 4 innings. It was just like masterful on offense, to be honest. I don't know how to put it any better.
Yeah, I mean, they play Wanakee, and Wanakee's not bad at all. Like, I mean, we expect them to be a solid. I think they're a little young in certain spots, like whatever. But they're a competitive team with real prospects, and like I think that kind of just underscores how complete Sun Prairie East feels right now, or at least in this early season showing. But what Fields was getting at there, yeah, I'd like them a lot on paper, but seeing them in person feels, it sounds like, kind of matches what they look like on paper too. At number 5, we got West Osher Central. This is a team that returns a lot from a state appearance last year, and they've come out of the gates pretty strong. I think they've just played the 1 game so far, but Joe Swilko looked really, really good in that 1 start, which is a big takeaway here. They have a really healthy pitching staff and just a lineup that has both experience and more competitive at-bats, but feels anything to add in there on Central?
Yeah, so like you said, they were a state quarterfinal team. They bring back a bunch, but they also have some freshmen that we like coming up, Tice Nichter and BSC now. So BSC actually went for a home run in his first play appearance. So
the legend grows. BSC, and I actually saw, I can't remember who, someone from Westosha replied to, I don't remember, like maybe it was the home run tweet or something, but they used BSC in the tweet. I have no idea if they got that from us or anything, but like
we got to trademark it at this point. But that was a big time swing from the freshman. How about that, right? First at bat. Anytime you see like a top prospect, anytime you see like a top prospect getting his first big league at bat, most of the time those guys hit home runs. I feel like this is a similar situation where he makes varsity as a freshman, he hits a home run off the scoreboard. Good call, Fields. That was a big time swing.
I remember asking him he was at the Milwaukee preseason ID at the Mosh, and I was just like, "Oh, Ben, are you going to be on varsity?" And he was like, we're really good this year. Probably not. And I was like, "What? Like, you got to crash the roster somehow?" Like, so I didn't know. I thought maybe it'd take him a little time to, make an impact, whatever. And so I just see this tweet that Ben crushed this home run in his first at bat. It was just so funny and cool to see, and just happy for him. So that was sweet. But this is a strong Westosha team. So I mean, if whether or not they get anything out of Nichter or Smet Cooper, like it kind of just goes to show like just how deep they are. But if they do, that just is the cherry on top here for West Osha. So they're a really strong team here in southeastern Wisconsin. Number 4, Kimberly. They traveled out to Indiana to start their season. They actually had a crazy game against Castle, which is I think like a top 15 or so team in Indiana in their biggest division, the biggest classification, 10-9 win, kind of a back and forth contest. But Indiana's got some really good baseball out there, so I think any sort of ranked team that Kimberly beats, like I think that's quite notable. So kind of expected. It's a really well-run organization, like led by Ryan McGinnis, and like it's just kind of polished up. But yet again, this is a strong unit, strong roster with balance, top to bottom. Max Hermes, I think, played pretty well in that season opener. He's that sophomore that we liked, and we saw this preseason. But there were a lot of takeaways in that. Just one game to start this season. But we like Kimberly, as we always do, top 5 team, number 4 to start the year. Number 3, Hudson. Kind of a lot to say here. There's just a lot of pieces here that we like. We were debating them at 2 or 3. Monona Grove is number 2, but Hudson, we should put them at number 3. I think you can kind of pick your order there. Like, there's no wrong answers. But lopsided win in their opener against South St. Paul, Minnesota team. But I thought it was nice to see Matazinski was like their best hitter in that game. Just kind of could be a good sign of things to come if that's what he continues to look like offensively.
Absolutely, on top of just the other pieces they have on that offense, Sam Abrahamson, Logan Hagman, if any of these guys can just get it done, any of these guys can basically win them a game, basically. So that's good to look.
Yeah, and Mitchell Anderson started that game for them, and I think the stat line anyway looked pretty good. And he's kind of not a wild card, but just more of he's a senior that looked like he really, really popped over the offseason. So maybe a small question mark in what you're going to get out of that. But great start for him. He looks really interesting. We should try to see Anderson this spring if we can, as well as this whole group. I think we'll see at least a couple times, I would anticipate. But just a lot of interesting pieces on this Hudson group. On top of the ones we kind of are more of those sure things, like a Hagman. It feels like just for the rest of his life he's just going to be able to pick up a bat and hit anywhere. So we'll just keep factoring that into. But Hudson at 3, number 2, Monona Grove. They traveled to Florida for spring break to open their season. Actually came away from it 3-0. Started their year against I can't remember the name of it. I'm just skipping out what it was. Cade Elam's high school team from Kentucky. It's just slipping my mind, but they were good. It was a really good high school out of Kentucky. Cade Elam is kind of a draft guy in Kentucky, Louisville commit. Started the year ominously with Cade Elam homering off Cal Moreau in the first inning. But that was it. Moreau stopped it there, and Monona Grove just kind of chipped away and won. Chase Yinko is another Player of the Week candidate from Monona Grove, center fielder. And he finished the week 6 for 8 with a few extra base hits and just was really productive all the way around, both on both sides of the ball and defense too up the middle. But Monona Grove 3-0 to start the spring and looking pretty sharp doing it. So anything to add there, Fields or even Vinnie?
Yeah, Monona Grove, like you said, Andy, we were debating whether or not to put them at 2 or 3, but honestly, I don't think there's a wrong order here, just because of how good and how talented all these teams are and what we expect out of them this spring.
Yeah, definitely not. I think the tiebreaker was Monona Grove. Even though they graduated a few key pieces, for the most part, they look quite similar to the team last year that was really, really good. They're kind of eager to one-up that team from last year, falling just short of state. And we think that they're more than capable of making not just a run at state, but winning the whole thing at D1. They just look really, really good, and it was nice to see them take a trip like that and kind of represent Wisconsin well down in Florida. They won their 2 other games against a Kentucky school and an Illinois school, kind of a smaller Illinois school. But they were lopsided wins, kind of beat who's in front of you, and that's exactly what they did. So that was good to see. And that brings us to our number 1 squad, Muskego. On paper, this was one of the crazier rosters, I think, since I've been doing this. Wisconsin, the high school size are just I think a little smaller on average, to some of the other teams and programs in an Illinois or something, just kind of comparing it off of. So seeing a 1 through 9 as deep as this, a rotation as deep as this, some really good sophomores who won't see the field because of the juniors and seniors in front of them, like, which is somewhat atypical for Wisconsin. It was just really, really interesting on paper. And I say on paper just because, this is kind of the first time that they did graduate a lot, so they'll be plugging in a few names into this roster in spots that, like, will be brand new to them. So I think, like some other teams, there will be some growing pains. Kind of saw it right away on opening day with a loss to Whitnall, which wasn't like shocked to see just because Whitnall looked really, really eager, competitive in like pregame and like, I don't know, it was their first game of the season in Muskego. Whitnall had already played and like there's some other factors there. It was a great win, but Muskego still to me looks like they are worthy of this number 1 rank. What do you think of that, Fields?
I could 100% buy in on that take. I mean, like you said, there's going to be some high-level sophomores just not playing for this team. They could potentially be on varsity for probably 50% of the WIAA, and they're just on JV at Muskego. So that speaks to the depth that they just have in their high school. So on top of it, the talent at the top is just really good. Kugelich, obviously, Florida State commit, Grokowski, Staudiker, and then guys like Danny Hallboat, who is a 4-year starter for them at second base. So a lot of experience, a lot of guys that have that upper echelon talent and ceiling. So really eager to see how the rest of the spring plays out for them.
And dropping their first game too, right? Isn't to Whitnall isn't really. I mean, it might affect what we do with the rankings here, but first game of the season, cold. I mean, this team's just going to hit their stride. I mean, it's just too much talent up and down the lineup. Yeah,
that's what it seems like. I mean, there weren't too many like worrying signs. I mean, the second half of the lineup did struggle. I think they went over. It's a talented group, but they struggled against Jake Recklitz, who was pretty sharp, and he got even sharper as the game went on, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if anything, maybe that was a slight concern, but it's still just one game. But the top half of the lineup, like Maddox Lassard, took some good at-bats. He got a base hit, hard base hit to left. Ben Kugelich took some really good at-bats. That was good to see. Even though strike, like the breaking ball was maybe like not as sharp, like Whitnall kind of sat on the fastball, but even still, like I anticipate Ben Kugelich, settling in on the mound here very soon. And then they're pretty deep behind him. Tyson Grokowski just pitched yesterday, looked sharp, more strikes, punch outs. It was freezing, but throwing strikes probably mid to upper 80s like he does with the breaking ball. He's your number 2, quote unquote. Mason Horn looked really good when I saw him in Muskego. So, I mean, it just goes on. And,
right.
I think they'll settle in just fine here, still kind of representing number 1. We'll probably update our Power 25. Not, it depends on the weather. Like if it warms up, which it's supposed to this week, we'll see how many teams get games in. So, potentially Monday, April 14th, we'll update it. But we'll kind of hope that a few teams most of these teams get at least a few games in before we take the time to update it. But we'll see. So tentatively Monday, this next Monday here, the 14th, but we'll see if we get there. All right, cool. Well, that'll take us to our Soroka and Fields road trip takeaways segment here. I don't know, feel free to sponsor that, like Quick Trip. That's what we were talking about. That'd be a great Quick Trip sponsored segment, to be honest. So
we do need one. Sponsored by the cheesy tater tots from Quick Trip, something like that.
I've been grabbing the spicy chicken sandwich lately.
Definitely.
All right, cool. Well, we were all over the place week 1. We had some work to catch up on, so we couldn't get out right away, and the weather was not awesome just on the first opening day, but we were busy in the latter half of the week on, what was it? Was it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or maybe just Thursday through Saturday? Either way, Fields, you went out first, or we both went out first and saw Badger and Tremper play. I think that was our first game on Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, okay, cool. So we met up at Badger High School, saw Ethan Bauerschmidt face the Badgers. Vibes were high. The weather was pretty good. And I don't know, what did you think? I thought Bauer completely lived up to expectations. I mean, he got a loss. Actually, Badgers lineup was like really interesting. They were taking some really good swings against him. With that being said, he had like Bauerschmidt's breaking ball was disgusting, I thought, and like there were some really ugly swings too. But just all in all, there were some really quality at bats out of Badger, which was an interesting takeaway from like maybe a Power 25 perspective. But from like a scouting prospect perspective, like there were some MLB scouts there in attendance to watch Ethan pitch. It looked good. I thought he looked good. Like athletic, easy, good mover with. Really, like there's some good breaking balls in this class, but Bauerschmidt's is at least in that same tier 1 classification, I would say. But Fields, what'd you get out of this look?
Yeah, this was one that I had circled. I've been watching Ethan throw over the last couple months indoors, but it got up to 93 in the first. It was cruising in the low 90s throughout his outing. Like you said, that breaking ball is one of the best in the state. I would put it right up against Peter Cuso's, but he also added a ton of pitches. He showed a new sinker that he was throwing exclusively to lefties. He was also flashed a changeup again to another left-handed hitter, and then he threw this mid-80s cutter that was a really interesting pitch. Matthew O'Grady actually put a great swing on one of them, but just adding pitches more to this, Ethan, previous looks, had been more of a 2-pitch guy, really showing like unwavering confidence in that slider, which is still there, even after it ticked up as well. It really gives us something to think about when we update this class. Like, where do we put Ethan Bauerschmidt right now? Just because of more pitches that add increased velocity that we've seen, and that breaking ball is really just ticked up even more.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you talked about him, when we talked on his performance, Josh, after you watched this outing, it was like all the ingredients were there that we have seen in the past. But it looked like on video how much easier the ball was coming out, how much athleticism and sync he had to the delivery, and then adding the touch and feel to having to be able to throw a cutter. Now it's a real discernible pitch from the other pitches from his other fastball. So it's not like he just accidentally cut one, or maybe he didn't get through a breaking ball or something like that. Like, it was a real pitch. He showed feel for it. That's impressive. That shows acumen. That shows the ability to know how to manipulate the baseball and to have really good touch and feel for the baseball, as Ethan Bauerschmidt does.
Yeah, and it's such a high-level athlete too. Like, we say that a lot, but just because those guys kind of find a way to put themselves at the top of these lists, but he is exactly that. Like, you could just tell the on-mound athlete is awesome. Really just fluid mover. It's a pretty delivery. And he throws this breaking ball with such confidence. I mean, he could throw it any count, any situation. He was landing it glove side, like to righties, like kind of felt like whenever he needed it. So that his feel and just confidence, I think, in that breaking ball feels like a separator to some of his other peers. But it's a really tough group to kind of break apart at the top. Like, I think a lot of these guys are sort of like sandwiched next to each other, like 1 through whatever it is, 5, 6, 7. Other years, I think some of those guys kind of like find ways to push each other apart, like kind of create more tiers within that top 10 or so. But it feels like those guys are kind of like nestled right next to each other at the top. So it's really hard to separate that 1 through 5. You can go a lot of different ways with it. But Bauerschmidt is certainly just overall like an arrow up prospect athlete in Wisconsin for sure. And you mentioned it too, Fields, but Matthew O'Grady took some pretty good at bats against Bauerschmidt in particular. I don't know if it was an 0-2 cutter, but that cutter was definitely a 2-strike pitch that he saw. He kind of stayed on it and barreled it to right, just kind of a hard line out to right field. But him staying on that pitch is a really good takeaway from that look. And then you had to leave. You bounced to St. Joe's and New Berlin Eisenhower, but while I stayed put, glad I did, because eventually he launched just this no doubt monster home run against another good arm, Matthew McCorney, senior, committed Whitewater. Thought he looked pretty good. Just the fastball is interesting metrically, but O'Grady was totally ready for it. Hit just this bomb to straight away, like left center, or center, just left center, right over the gap, and thought that was huge to see. Just kind of felt like a more improved, confident version of O'Grady here, just in the level of at-bats he took. I just felt like he was just kind of at a different level in this look. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and on top of it, he was a future gamer, so we had already had history. But in the winter, we noticed that there was a tangible swing adjustment, and we circled this just to make sure. Hey, is this going to translate in game? Is he going to be able to find the barrel more often? And obviously, launched that home run, stayed on that pitch. It really seems like the bat to ball has really picked up along with that swing adjustment.
Yeah, because he is another, again, quality athlete in the state, multi-sport kid, really, really, really strong, but fast, athletic, can really chase it down the outfield. So him just gaining a little bit more of that bat to ball, which he does, the home run stuff, the power, I think, was always there. It's just a matter of maximizing on it and just connecting for more of that contact in game. But doing it like this in this style against some of these quality arms, he got a base hit off Bauerschmidt in his second at bat too, I think. So just a good overall look at him, uncommitted junior in the state, one of the better athletes that's still uncommitted in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we have him at 13 currently. I mean, just in the look in the winter was impressive. It's just kind of the exit velocities, all the metrics were just kind of ticked up for Matthew O'Grady. Ran another great 60 for us. But we've seen this kid live before. We've always thought okay, is this swing going to be able to play just in terms of it's a little bit in and out of the zone, super downhill. And so what we saw in the winter is he flattened it out quite a bit. And so, but at the same time, in batting practice at the event in West Milwaukee at the Sticks facility, it was a little almost too uphill. Now I think he's flattened it out even more now in this game look, and clearly this swing adjustment's playing in the game. And is flat, it is short, it's compact, and now he's back spinning balls to all fields because we saw a little bit of top spin to the pull side, which is fine or whatever, but just now it's in the zone early, it's in the zone forever, and all of a sudden it's playing in game. And you add all those combinations together with the fact that he's an exceptional athlete, one of the best athletes in the state, two-way star on the football field, right? So it's okay, this kid is starting to figure it out, and it's going to be fun to watch here, Matthew O'Grady, going forward.
Yeah, true center fielder on top of it, too, so it just adds to the profile. A guy that can, almost a five-tool guy now, up the middle profile with it.
Right. Yeah, and that genuine, two-strike approach and swing, followed by, that uphill, hey, I'm strong enough and good enough to hit, a home run in this situation, which is exactly what he did. Two different swings, but, good enough to, continue to kind of operate that way. It was a really good look at Matthew O'Grady. And he kept hitting, too, later in the week as Badger. Badger's 3-0, I think. So good stuff out of O'Grady. And then Saturday, Fields and I were both out. Fields, you want to talk a little bit more about what you saw in that Sun Prairie contest? Because Joseph Tamboli, uncommitted lefty, junior, he looked extremely interesting, and he was one of our preseason ID winners. But to see him in game now kind of translate this over, it must have been exciting to see that. Oh,
yeah. Really in on just everything about what I saw out of Tamboli. It was up-tempo. I mentioned unwavering confidence for Bauerschmidt, but this was also the same type of confidence in the secondaries. It was, I want to say, I wasn't charting pitch to pitch, but I'd say it was about 70% secondaries, changeup and breaking balls, and he was throwing them in any count. He was throwing 0-0 breaking balls, 0-0 changeups, but it was up to 84 in the first. It was a ton of strikes, a ton of moxie on the mound, and just really wanted the ball, really wanted to stay out there the entire game. It was 11 strikeouts. Believe another freshman came in on to finish out the game for him, but yeah, it was major arrow up for Joey Tamboli. I mean, velo wasn't as firm as it was in the winter, but with the way it moves, way it works, you don't worry about that, especially in a windy 40-degree day.
Yeah, just watching how the pitchability, just you can even, the left-on-left changeup. When we were talking through this video, Josh, and in the tweet that you put out, I was like, dude, that was a left-on-left changeup, and you were like,
even the catcher and the hitter both came up.
Had trouble handling it because it had so much movement to it. So that's like you said, it speaks to the confidence that he has in his ability to pitch, get the ball to all four quadrants, use all of his pitches for strikes. I mean, that was a really impressive look. I agree with you. It looked like the fastball actually just kind of jumps at hitters. Maybe they don't see it. Maybe it's got some maybe metrically.
Yeah, there's definitely some funk to the delivery.
Yeah, something to it.
Yeah, it's a deceptive delivery for sure. Like, so
Yeah.
that kind of adds to it. And knowing that he's got, a little more velo in the tank for sure. Right now, of course, like down the road too. But like we'd seen him throw even a little harder before. Like, I'm sure that as the spring kind of rolls on here and the weather gets warmer, like that stuff will naturally come out. So to think that he might even be even tougher to face in the coming weeks and months is kind of an interesting thing to see too. But anything else there, Fields, that you want to talk about? It just some of the looks or at bats you got. I know you said Camden Glusick.
Yeah, Camden Glusick. I think I texted you during the game, but Camden Glusick is a hitter. Sophomore, middle of the order for them. Played center field, but I don't think he got out. It was on the barrel. He used the entire field, and just like his brother, the bat to ball is right there, but there might be some more impact from just a simpler swing from Cam as well. So I mentioned Cam's brother, but Max was also just a standout of the day. Shortstop, bat to ball always stands out in front of him. But he's one of those guys where you just look at it and just like, this guy plays extremely hard with a ton of fire and energy, and it seems like it's contagious in the dugout as well. So big energy guy from him.
For sure. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He's a high motor guy, like UW Milwaukee commit, senior, Max Glusick. But, just infectious for sure. Like, just love the way he plays. Kind of rubs off on the rest of the team, I feel like. So that's what you got out of that look, too. Anything from Wanakee worth mentioning here? I know we like some of their players.
Yeah, so one of the best defensive catchers in the state, uncommitted junior Colin Murphy. It was another great look defensively behind the plate. Pre-game, I was getting pops in the 193 range. So just the showcase pops show up in game, especially it was just unwavering confidence, field general type look behind the dish too, with some bend and some mobility. Big time athlete behind the plate. Wes Ducharme was the leadoff hitter for them. It wasn't the greatest look at the plate, but performance-wise, but you just love the way it looks. Not a lot of swing and miss, even though it was 2 Ks, but there wasn't any swing and miss.
That's such a tough matchup with Tamboli, too. So
especially left on left, yes.
No swing and miss is like a notable takeaway there, for sure.
Yeah, especially. But the athlete stands out, and the swing looks like it's just a more comfortable, more natural, even though, obviously he came up empty on the day, but it was a good look at Ducharme, even though it was an 0 for stat line.
Yeah, and that's kind of the takeaway too here with when we're going out to games, when Josh and Andy and some other guys that we're going to send out to games this year, it's like, okay, so if we're out at your game, we're watching, just more so the process of what you do and how you do it, right? We just don't go to a game and be like, okay, this guy went 3 for 3. We got to get him ranked way up there, or he went 0 for 3. We got to bump him way down in the rank, or something like. We're scouting, we're watching how you're doing it, and that's kind of the story with Wes Ducharme's day. Like, we still are really, really high in this kid. He's got all the ingredients to be a really, really good player in the future.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway, Vinny. Thanks for that, because
there's one more guy I did want to.
Go ahead.
Uncommitted senior Brady Barman. He was the leadoff hitter, had 2 hits on the day. It actually broke up Tamboli's no hitter, and he's one of the top bats returning for them. Just big bats a ball guy, can use the entire field. Really good feel for the barrel, and just looks like an athlete out of the box, and also plays shortstop for them as well.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think he had a big game later in the week for Wanakee, or earlier in the week, one of the two. Like in one of their other games, I believe Brady Barman played well. I was looking at it in the roundup and stuff, so that's a good note there. And then Vinny, thanks for that note on how we're going about our in-person looks, because I think sometimes it's almost more helpful. Like I would love to see Wes Ducharme go 4 for 4 or whatever in every game, but sometimes it's helpful because you're not going to do that at the college level or any level, really, just in and out rake. But knowing okay, how does this player rebound from an 0 for 4 day, or hey, this is a really good left-handed pitcher, Wes Ducharme, left-handed hitter. How does he fare against someone of this caliber, that left matchup? That's important to know too. So you learn a lot just from those looks, even if the end result. Sometimes that's why it's tough for Fields or myself even to go oh yeah, were they 0 for 4 or 1 for 4 or 2? It's we're not necessarily thinking of it in terms of like the traditional like box score all the time.
Right.
There's kind of some other things that we're like putting in the bank mentally before we go to their like, okay, yeah, they had a single and an RBI or something. Like it's not as readily available as some of this other stuff. So.
And we're paying attention to like, obviously the WIAA box scores, yes, but then also like we are getting information from your program heads. So like, who you're playing for in the summer, and like maybe if it's a Legion coach that's reaching out to us, like we're keeping tabs on everything that's going on in the state. I mean, Fields especially, right? So, yeah. So just it's not the end of the world. And I remember being a player like, oh my God, I just went 0 for 4 in front of a college coach, So it's like not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll bring us to this Whitnall-Muskego matchup that I was at. There's kind of a lot of takeaways here. I'll kind of keep it short and sweet, but Ben Kulich on the mound, up to 92 in the first. I think he hit 92 again in the second, if I'm not mistaken. But like 88 or 89, 91, 92. Breaking ball, like I mentioned before, he was just, I don't know exactly what it was necessarily, but he just didn't have the feel for it on this day, kind of spiking it. Kind of allowed Whitnall, I think, to sit on the fastball a little bit more comfortably. They were kind of ready for it. But for the most part, I mean, it's not like he was like, no strikes, erratic, and just had no idea. But like, I thought this was still a fine look at Ben Kulich on this opening day for Muskego. But even more, the bat to me is still interesting. It's still like completely in play that this, like Vinnie, like you've always been on the take that Kulich could still be this like position player at the next level, and I don't think we'd written him off in any way. But just as he, was up to 94 this winter, like the breaking ball looked like it took a jump in this pen that we saw, and so it kind of felt like maybe the arrow was like ticking closer and closer to him becoming like this pitcher long term. But then, like at the same time, he's this really freak athlete, 6'5" runner with size, and I thought his at bats, Jake Recklitz might not have had a ton of velo, but I mean there was a lot of swing and miss here from the rest of this lineup, and yet Ben Kulich I thought took some really smart at bats against Recklitz, and then he barreled a long double to the opposite gap, just had like some bat the ball here, and like we know that I think he's strong enough eventually to unlock maybe some even more power. I think he was more of that guy like when he was even younger too, so it's probably still in there, but I don't know. I was like thinking about it more and more of like, this level of athlete, like he can play multiple positions defensively. Like, I don't know, maybe he is. Maybe he is this next level, like, position player, like outfielder. I mean, I think he played shortstop for them yesterday. But I don't know. What do you guys have a take on that? Like, I think he, like, it was just an impressive positional look at him in particular, I thought.
I just think the arm did take such a big jump for us that we're like, okay, maybe it's an arm more so than a bat. But, like, no, I mean, let's see how this year plays out for this kid because, yeah, I mean, the ceiling is incredibly high as a position player as well. So, I'm with you guys. I mean, I've always been in on the bat. But, like you said, I mean, the arm, like I said just a minute ago, the arm has been like, wow. Like, I mean, that pen that we saw in West Milwaukee at the West Milwaukee preseason ID was so impressive that, like, okay, it's probably going to be a draftable arm. But, Fields, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a supreme athlete, like in terms of like a national scale, but he also has aptitude. So I'm not going to rule out a bat at any point in this. Like, putting draft aside, if he goes to school, I would let him hit in college for the next 3 years as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It was just the amount of bat the ball I felt like we were seeing, and it's not like he had been this like strikeout guy in the past, so that was something that I was like, all right, like probably maybe I'm not weighing that hard enough that he is a pretty good bat the ball guy. He's this crazy athlete, can probably be a center fielder. Like if he wanted to be, I have no doubt. Like you said, Fields with the aptitude, and it's like all of a sudden we're talking about like a really, really good athlete center fielder with bat to ball who could totally grow into or unlock some like real game power as well. Like so, I was like, all right, I don't know, maybe I've been reading the situation or something. But either way, it's a good problem to have if you're Ben Kulich that you might be really good at both pitching. So.
I bet his 6'4" speed also shows up in game too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so he had a really good day overall just for them, like from the middle of the lineup. I think he was, I don't know if he was mad that he just didn't pitch his best, but I thought like he tried to make up for it at the plate and did. Like he was good. Max Lazard took some good at bats. Like he, again, like kind of the same MO, which I respect. Like he has this A swing. He's trying to hit a home run in the right situation, but like he did, like, you know, kind of come back into his own once, you know, all right, like I ripped a foul ball or something, like it's 0-1, like I'll like settle back into this game swing, which is how he hit 400 plus as a freshman last year in his first year in varsity.
Yeah.
And you saw that again. He had a hard base hit to left field, and he also looked I thought he looked really, really sharp behind the plate. He was because with this Coolidge breaking ball, didn't have a ton of feel for it. Quite a few of them in the dirt early anyway, and Lazard I thought was blocking him up extremely well and comfortably. Like that could have been more of an issue than it was for Muskego. Catch and throw was good. He let one ball kind of get away. Maybe it was like a borderline pass ball. Recovered it really quickly and threw out a base runner from second to third. That was good to see because he has a big arm, but you know it played right away in game. So getting this better look of him defensively was also helpful to see. Just I thought he was really sound back there from as a receiver, but because we kind of know the catch and throw for the most part has been pretty good for us, but given his like arm strength and stuff too. So that was a good look at Max Lazard. I tweeted it, but like maybe the best look just overall, like even though the stat line might not show it, was Mason Horn up to 85, but just it was just getting it and going up tempo. Was attacking hitters. He walked one, but it was like a long at bat, and it was kind of a borderline strike three, if I'm not mistaken. And the breaking ball looked sharp too. He had confidence in that pitch. Just looked like an athlete on the mound as well. Like Mason Horn was a major arrow up guy for me coming out of this one. I think that might be it. Fields. I don't know. And was there something I'm forgetting that I told you about that I should mention?
Well, I just want to reiterate, too, to the listener that Maddox Lazard was a freshman last year and is a junior this year because he reclassed up. So now he's in the 2026 class. And that just speaks to the kid's talent. So all of a sudden, like, he does not look out of place, right, behind the dish, handling a really high-end arm. And then the defense is just continually getting better for him. So, and then the Mason Horn. Oh, go ahead.
No, just Lazard. Just he looked like one of their best guys. Like it was a very like confident. Like he just looked like he was like one of the leaders on the team. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like he's continuing to just put it together in game more often. So,
right.
Which is great.
Yeah, and then the Mason Horn look. That's one of the. We're super high on this kid. Like he is only going to continue to get better. We liked his brother as well. When he came through, he was a 2024 grad. But Mason looks like he's going to be bigger, stronger, and just a really high-end arm from the left side. So, good look from him.
Yeah, good look there. Then Whitnall's side, Jack Lutz. It was funny. Like he didn't get a ton of chances at short, and like I think he got walked like twice maybe. But in his second at bat, he walked in his first at bat against Coolidge. Second at bat against Coolidge, it was 3-0. I think he was just like frustrated. Or something in a good way, in a competitive way, because he swings at this 3-0 fastball that he was just totally ready for and just lined it right back up the middle, and took a single. But it was just kind of cool to see that, like that he was just like, I don't care, how hard this guy's throwing. Like I'm about to get a base hit here, I need one, and he did exactly that. So it was good to see him do that. But we'll need to get another look at him, hoping to get some more chances at shortstop, and just because he's a high level defender too. Maybe some draft guys out to see him as well. On Whitnall, they were just a competitive lineup. Like Tanner Efforts took some of the better at bats of the entire game. He was like 3 for 4 with a double. He actually hit an 0-2 Mason Horn breaking ball for 2-run single, like up the middle. That was a good pitch that he stayed on. Like, Whitnall's lineup 1 through 9, I was like pretty impressed by actually. And Lucas Weber, I saw him in relief, and he was up to 85 through strikes and pitched a clean final 4 outs for Whitnall too. So keep an eye on that sophomore. Cool. All right, guys.
Andy, what about maybe go into Matthew Koo? What did he do against
Matthew
Whitnall?
Koo. Oh man, Matthew, you would have you would have been mad if I didn't shout you out because you deserve it. Like, you were all over it. You barreled up Ben Kugelich fastball for a double. That kind of sparked the Whitnall lineup. Then a few other really good at-bats. I think 3 hits. It's uncommitted senior with athleticism. Yeah, we've seen him catch before. He was not catching. I think he was playing left field for Whitnall on Saturday. But just an athlete, plays with like a ton of energy, but like you love it in the dugout. Like, he was just firing up Whitnall, and he was kind of backing it up too with his at-bats. Just took some really, really good at-bats. So 3 for 4 with a double against some velo, and just showing some athleticism out of the box as well. So that was a good look at Matthew Koo. Thank you, Fields. Great reminder. All right, that brings us to Vinnie, the latest Rottino Report. What do you got here this week?
Yeah, we're talking about Paxton Shu, 2026 grad out of Kaukauna High School. High-end left-handed arm. Last year we saw him at the state games, the Wisconsin State games, 80 to 83 on the fastball, topping out 85, 86 range. We saw him in Wausau all the way up to 90, so just sitting 88, 89 miles per hour with the heater from the left side. Look, I think this delivery has really cleaned up. I think it's gotten a lot more fluid and loose through the delivery. It looked like he was throwing a little bit of a pie thrower last year at the Wisconsin State games. Just in terms of like how that elbow hinged, it's kind of like muscling kind of through the baseball. This look here in Wausau, I mean, he was really getting through it, loose, fluid, just commanding the baseball to all quadrants, showed a sharp slider and a good changeup as well. So arrow way up for Paxton Shu. The sky's the limit for this left-hander. Typically left-handers develop last, and maybe that's what we're seeing from Paxton. I mean, he's still got a couple of years left in high school, and the sky's the limit from this uncommitted junior.
Yeah, nice. Makes up part of a really interesting Kaukauna squad, and hopefully we can see him soon, whether it's out of the pen, relief, whatever it is. I don't know his role exactly for Kaukauna this year, but they got a ton of arms, actually. That's an interesting squad. We might even see them this week. Kind of perfectly segues into this next segment, Fields. If you want to take the lead, Fields has been kind of outlining some potential games we're going to, so no guarantees in these games, but just some key matchups and like games that are on our docket as potentially we'll make it out to. We kind of have to figure out where we're going. But Fields, how does this week look?
Yeah, obviously, weather permitting, these games happen. Obviously, the first couple weeks, there's a lot of cancellations and postpones. But Thursday we're looking at Nina versus Kimberly. I believe that's at Sunset Park, and then Kaukauna versus Hortonville that same day. We just talked about Paxton Shu, so maybe we can get a look at him there. Moving on to Friday, there's some interesting matchups, including Watertown versus Oconomowoc. I believe that's at Dockhounds. Another one would be Kewaskum versus West Bend East at Regner Park. And then moving on to Saturday, there's a 3-game slate at Dockhounds that we are kind of eyeing up. First game, I believe it's at 9:30, Slinger versus Oconomowoc. And then Eau Claire Memorial versus Arrowhead at the noon slate. And I believe this one is at the third game is scheduled for 7:30, but that would be Monona Grove versus Kettle Moraine. So big 3-game, big week potentially in the WIAA, especially for coverage purposes. But
yeah, I would say there's a significant chance that Fields and I both probably potentially will be on one of us for sure. We'll be there on Saturday at Dockhounds, just considering there's a lot of interesting teams. It'll be really good to see Eau Claire Memorial come this way. We'll probably try to head out west at some point this spring too, once the weather gets a little better. But seeing them come to the Lake Country area to play Arrowhead will be great. I'm not quite sure if Jesperson is throwing, but the potential of a Jesperson, Picuso, or even Jesperson versus any of these Arrowhead arms really would be a great game. So that would be a lot of fun. But Slinger and Oconomowoc, that's another great matchup in the morning. Then Monona Grove and Kettle Moraine is really good too. Monona Grove, number 2 team in the state, and Kettle Moraine always has some players. I think they've had a couple guys kind of stand out. Andrew Yashag was one that comes to mind. But so that's a good look at Saturday. Thursday, Friday, like Fields said, we'll see. Honestly, if you're listening to this and there's a game here we're missing that we got to head out to, just hit us up some way, shape or form. Yeah, we'll check it out. We'll do our best. Trying to get to as many teams as possible this spring. It'll be Fields, myself, and some other guys on staff that will hopefully head out to a record number of games for Prep Baseball Wisconsin. So stay tuned there. All right, cool. Well, this went good. This went good. I didn't know.
So.
This is our first non-showcase podcast to break down. So thanks for bearing with us,
And I did want to just kind of mention to everybody, too, so if you have someone that is even slightly interested in prep baseball and just baseball around the state in general, please listen to the podcast and give it a like and a subscribe. That actually really helps, even if it's, all your family members, even if maybe they don't even like baseball, but just have them like and subscribe. It actually helps out the channel quite a bit.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vinny. You got to do the like and subscribe thing. And if it actually does mean a lot to us, and just that feedback and stuff, things we can get better at or change and whatnot. So liking, subscribing, rating, whatever it is that wherever you're listening to it, that is super helpful to us and our kind of cause here. So thanks a lot. And then new weekly segment here, Brewer of the Week, random Brewer of the Week. I don't know if you cheated. Hopefully you didn't cheat and look, because I was very proud of the randomness of this one. All right, 2015 Brewer legend Adam Lind. I mean, I went in the bag for the most random guy I could think of for random.
You're
Brewer.
just naming one? Is that the segment?
In 2015 when you won. That's basically it. Well,
okay.
Yeah, basically it. Unless do you have a good Adam Lind tidbit? I have no idea.
Well, I do, because he produced Freddie Peralta. They traded for Freddie Peralta because of Adam Lind. Yeah, went over to the Seattle Mariners. Yeah.
And he was traded for Marco Estrada or something, I think that's the Brewers acquired him, I think, for.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I think
that
you're
worked
right.
out.
Was that?
I think that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's just random. It's random Brewer of the Week. That's all. That's the
great.
segment. That's all there is. That's all there is.
Adam Lind, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, 20 homers, 32 doubles, 2015. I mean, what a year. Memorable. All right, guys. Awesome. Well, appreciate it. Thank you for listening. You guys got anything else to add before we go?
No, that was a good episode. Good job, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Badger State Ball Podcast. To keep tabs on our latest events, rankings, and coverage, subscribe or follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us over at PrepBaseballWI on X and at PrepBaseballReport.com/Wisconsin. Until next time.